Hello and welcome to a Quickie guide on Phase 2 of FRU. With that said, let's begin. The boss will begin by facing south and casting Quadruple Slap, a double hit tank buster that applies a cleansable physical vulnerability on the tank for the first hit. Here we just face the boss south and use invulnerability through the buster, with the off tank provoking after the second hit. There really is no reason not to use invulnerability here, and cleansing the physical vulnerability is a waste of a GCD when the tanks can just swap, and the MT can just provoke back before she becomes untargetable or once the boss is targetable again. The boss will then dash south, face north and cast Mirror Image, spawning an untargetable ad, and then the boss will cast a raid wide, Diamond Dust, and become untargetable. Around the arena will appear circular AoEs that always spawn opposite of each other and cover every cardinal and intercardinal. During this, the ad will cast Axe Kick, which is out, or Scythe Kick, which is in, both of which will target the 4 closest players to the ad with a cone cleave, and either all 4 DPS or support will be targeted by Frigid Stone, which are these spread markers that leave an AoE that will expand in each direction. The boss will then cast Heavenly Strike, knocking back all players. Now there is a second step to this mechanic, but first let's break down the first step. This is a fast mechanic, but if you do it step by step, I promise you it becomes a lot easier. The first thing we want to do is find the new north, which is where the first circle AoEs appear, as they always appear opposite of each other, to distinguish north from south. How we do this is use the red and purple waymarks as potential new north spots, which in turn makes yellow and blue waymarks the potential new south. Once we've found the new north, we need to identify if it's Axe Kick, which is out, or Scythe Kick, which is in. Then identify if DPS or support have the spreads. Whichever role doesn't have them is baiting the cone cleaves from the ad. Now with all that information combined, we should be able to execute the mechanic, so let's talk examples. So, we know where north is, and say it's Axe Kick. We know we need to be out. If we have spreads, these need to be on intercardinals according to your closest clock spot relative to new north. For instance, I'm north, so I know I need to put my spread to the left of north, all the way to the wall. But if I don't have spreads, then I need to bait the cones. There are 2 ways to handle this if you're north or south. If you're fast, you can just bait your cone on north or south and move back in as soon as the cast of Axe Kick finishes. It's not needed, but you can use sprint for extra safety. However, if you're not feeling confident, you'll need to go either west or east and share the spot with that player, with one being further up and one being further down. Refer to the footage for the exact spot. Also, one final note, when baiting the cones, use the outside ring here. This is the exact width of the Axe Kick. Just go outside this ring and get right up to it to make sure the cone goes to you and not the spreads. Once Axe Kick has gone off, cone baiters go back middle and prepare to be knocked back. Spreads, make sure you're staying at the wall until your spread has gone off, and then join the rest of the group and prepare for the knockback. If it's Scythe Kick, then it's a lot simpler, but a bit more tight. If you have spreads, same as Axe Kick, go to the intercardinals, but stay in. Here spreads will have to use the markings of the arena. Just stand where I'm showing and no further. This ensures you are further out than the players who are baiting cones. And as for the cone baiters, you'll always bait this on your cardinal, but as in as you can go. Again, use the markings on the arena to determine where your cone is going to go. Once Scythe Kick has gone off, cone baiters tuck into the middle a bit, and spreads go out and place your AoE on the line of this circle. Then go back to middle and prepare for the knockback. For the second part of this mechanic, every player will be knocked back by Heavenly Strike. Then both healers will be targeted by Sin-Bound Holy, a stack that hits 4 times and leaves a lingering bleed puddle that will instantly kill anyone who stays in it. During this, both the boss and the ad will swap models that will stun and damage down anyone looking at either. Then the floor will become thin ice and anyone who moves will slide across the arena, and the boss will cast either Twin Silence, which cleaves behind then in front, or Twin Stillness that cleaves in front then behind. To handle this, have Group 1 knocked into the new north and Group 2 knocked into the new south to evenly distribute the party for the stack hits. Then identify where the boss is, which is the ad that is always further into the arena, and take the route which leads further away from them. If it's an equal distance, like directly opposite or right on top of them, then just go clockwise with your group. Doing this will ensure no puddles are near the boss for the upcoming mechanic, silence or stillness. If it's silence, then just wait in front and start sliding towards her at the end of the cast. If it's stillness, then slide behind the boss, wait until almost the end of the cast, and then slide in front. One final note on this mechanic is, if you can't slide behind or in front because you're at an awkward position, then you can afford one slide to reposition before silence or stillness begins to cast. So it's usually a good idea to use this opportunity to position yourself in front of her and adjust from there. The boss will then cast Hallowed Ray on a random player. This is a line stack AoE, so throw some mitigation on this and then prepare for the next mechanic. Mirror Mirror will spawn 2 red mirrors and 1 blue mirror. Then she'll always cast Scythe Kick, that works exactly like the first one, in with 4 baited cones, along with the blue mirror copying her and doing the same at the same time. After that, the 2 red mirrors will begin to cast Scythe Kick, and then the boss will cast Banish Free, leading into spreads or pairs. To solve Mirror Mirror, first have tanks and melees in one group and healers and ranged in another. As soon as the blue mirror appears, healers and ranged will go towards it and bait its cones, while the MT will drag the boss opposite of the blue mirror and tanks and melees will bait the boss's cones. If any group is between 2 mirrors, rotate clockwise and let the tanks and melees take the nearest red mirror to them, and if they already have a mirror, then just look for the red mirror that isn't taken, then bait the red mirror cones. For positions, refer to the diagram shown. These will ensure you don't clip the other group with your cones. After that, you'll need to distinguish if the banish is spreads or pairs. The tell for this is the ring and orbs or orb above the boss. If it's just 1 orb, then it's pairs. If it's 4 orbs, then it's spreads. Partner up with your corresponding group member. For example, I'm main tank, so I partner up with M1. The boss will then dash to the middle of the arena and cast Light Rampant, dealing raid-wide damage and applying a varying number of debuffs, chaining 6 players together, targeting 2 with spread AoEs that leave lingering bleed puddles, 2 players will have 4-player stacks, 6 towers will appear that always spawn in the same location, and then the boss will become untargetable. Once the 6 towers have been taken and the 4-player stacks have been resolved, another tower will spawn in the middle of the arena and the boss will cast another banish before becoming targetable again. My group's strategy to handle this will not be the one I will be teaching. Instead, refer to this diagram. It's important to organize who takes what tower, as if the chains are too close, they will break and wipe the raid. The neat part is, the chains always tether to the closest available player that isn't targeted by a spread marker, so we can make this a bit easier by having all support north and all DPS south. First, let's get rid of the spread markers with an east and west priority. If you're closer to east, go east. If someone else is closer to east, let them take east and go west, vice versa. Now that the spread markers are gone, let's look at the configuration of the chained players. In every case, the rotational will always be clockwise. If 2 support are tethered and 4 DPS, the rotational will look like this, with healers and R1 going past 1 tower to align themselves with the next. Once everyone has rotated accordingly, you should have a hexagon of sorts. Then have north take south tower, and south take north tower, and northeast take northwest tower, and northwest take northeast tower. You might wonder why have these initial adjustments in the first place, when you're just swapping towers anyway. But trust me, doing those initial movements makes this step infinitely easier. Just remember, if you're northeast, north, northwest, and south, you'll always take the opposite tower to you in your configuration. But I think it's worth spending a little bit more time on this mechanic, so let's quickly go over some other scenarios. For example, if 3 support and 3 DPS are chained, it's really easy. with support filling in the north spots and DPS filling in the south spots. But if it's 4 support and 2 DPS chained, it's the same as 2 DPS and 4 support chained, just this time the 2 DPS and closer support will have to go past 1 tower. Now that's resolved, the 3 tower soakers south will go south, and the 3 tower soakers north will go north, while the 2 puddle placers drop their puddles in a clockwise fashion and meet with their corresponding group. Then dodge out of the way of the big orb as a group in a clockwise rotation to take the 4-player stack together, and don't get baited and move into the big AoE too early. Then players with only 2 stacks of Light Steeped soak the tower's middle, while the rest of the party assumes their clock spots, as the boss will cast another banish. If this is spreads, go or remain in your clock spots. If it's pairs, support should rotate to their DPS coloured partner to solve the mechanic. The boss will then become targetable again and cast the House of Light. This will target every player with a cone, so just make sure to remain or go to your clock spot and just wait this mechanic out. Then the boss will cast Absolute Zero, which is a heavy hitting raid wide, or an instant kill if the boss isn't below 20% health. After that, prepare some healing and shielding and tuck in, but remain in your clock spot, as the boss will push everyone back, freezing them for a little over 14 seconds. After which, adds will spawn, and the boss will become targetable again, but invulnerable until all the crystals of light have been destroyed. These crystals of light will target the closest players with dodgeable circle AoEs, and also tether to the player with a free hitting attack that also leaves lingering bleed puddles. During this, the boss will cast Endless Ice Age, which will wipe the raid if not defeated. Crystals of Darkness will also spawn and cast a dodgeable cone cleave at the closest player. If these cones hit a Crystal of Light, they'll make them take significantly less damage. To handle this, have 1 support and 1 DPS attacking each Crystal of Light, with all the melee and tanks at cardinals and staying attached to their crystal, while range will be at the intercardinals baiting the cones from the Crystals of Darkness, but not attacking them. And also make sure to not bait their cones towards the Crystals of Light. Currently, these cones can be bugged and the visual for them can be really bad, so be aware of that. Hopefully it's fixed soon. Also, range do have the freedom to help attack other Crystals of Light if they deem their current ones have enough damage already and will be killed on time. As for melees and tanks, how I handle this is I go max melee either left or right and bait my circle there and switch between each side. Then when I get the tether, I'll do the same, but just be careful where I'm placing my bleed puddles. And sometimes you'll have to go in front as well to the dismay of your ranged. It's a pretty YOLO mechanic, so just pray you have good DPS and you don't see every bleed puddle, but it's not hard to just kinda wing. Anyway, once all the Crystals of Light are destroyed, attack the boss. The target is 50% health, as Gaia will do another 50%. If you cannot make this DPS check, then throw out your melee LB3 to ensure you make it to the next phase for further progression. Then prepare for some raid-wide damage with shields and mitigation, and onto the next phase you go. And that's where I leave you, until the phase 3 guide. Anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you always to my Patreons for supporting the channel. Make sure to do all the YouTube shenanigans, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, and goodbye.